Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Ange Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today is episode 4 of the Kirchhoff podcast, where I talk about all things related to the NFL and the fantasy implications that those specific events, trade rumors, free agency acquisitions have for the 2019 fantasy football season as we approach that. So, before we begin today's episode, I just want to say thank you, everybody who continues to support, watch my videos, like, share, subscribe. Much appreciated to all of you. I know those of you who are commenting down below, you guys are the frequents, so much appreciated to all of you. Also, you can hit me up on Twitter down below. If you have any questions on Dynasty, I had a couple people this week hit me up, and we kind of got things settled here and there for their rosters. So if you have any questions regarding that kind of stuff, you can hit me up. But without further ado, what did we see this week in the NFL, right? We saw the NFL Combine this, last weekend. Couple players not participating, and other players having ridiculous weeks, right? We also saw some trades or potential trades that didn't go through this week. We have Kevin Zeitler and Antonio Brown's faces to my right, and then we have Tyrell Williams, who is a free agent, and a couple free agent positions that are getting filled up as time progresses. We've seen offensively and defensively players just today on March 8th get signed to teams that are going to make a big difference in 2019. So we're going to talk about all of that, and let's get right into it, shall we? Let's talk about Kyler Murray and potentially being drafted number 1 overall and going to the Arizona Cardinals, which as of right now, rumor has it that there are a couple draft experts, a couple ESPN or NFL network former GMs, guys like that are saying that potentially Kyler Murray is going to be the number 1 overall pick. Now, here's the thing. Last season, the Arizona Cardinals, they drafted Josh Rosen in the first round. I think it was about the 10th overall pick. I think he was the 4th quarterback off the board, in fact. They drafted him because they believed in his talent. Now, perhaps he didn't have a great season, right? Everybody's rookie year doesn't have to be amazing, right? So he didn't have a great year, and neither did the Arizona Cardinals. There's a reason why they're the number 1 overall pick this season. There was complications within the offensive line, really not able to protect Josh Rosen. And then there was also, the Arizona Cardinals head coach last season was in his first year. He got fired, and as of right now, we have Cliff Kingsbury filling up his position, who used to be the coach for Texas Tech. He's coached Baker Mayfield. He's coached Patrick Mahomes in the past. He was just recently the USC coordinator. He hadn't even, participated in anything yet. He was just hired, and then all of a sudden he got the offer to be the head coach for the Arizona Cardinals. And he has said in the past that even prior to getting the Cardinals job, that if he was in the position to draft number 1 overall in the NFL, and I guess a reporter kind of threw it out there, that he would take Kyler Murray, the Oklahoma quarterback who had won the Heisman this past year, a guy that's extremely talented. Yes, he may be a smaller statured quarterback, but he's got a hell of a lot of talent, and he can contribute and be a hell of a quarterback in the NFL. So what are the rumors going around, and can it potentially happen where Kyler Murray ends up on the Arizona Cardinals this year? I think number 1 overall picks, they come and go. Some of them are busts, some of them are great. But to be honest, I don't think it hurts too much to take a quarterback number 1 overall. I believe, if you want to be a franchise that could participate and be competitive in the NFL and not just be a throwaway team who's never going to be able to compete within their own division, you need a high-level elite quarterback. Playing in the NFC West, right, where you're competing against the NFC champions, Los Angeles Rams. You also have to compete against the Seattle Seahawks, who made their playoff push. And then there's the 49ers, who are a young, talented team with Kyle Shanahan, getting everything going there, right? They were still competing even with their 3rd quarterback last season, and their 2nd-string running back, and their top wide receivers being out. That offense was depleted, and they were still competing. So if you want to compete within this division itself, the Arizona Cardinals, they need to make a play, and I think Kyler Murray might be the way to go. Now, where does that leave Josh Rosen? Obviously, they'd have to replace and go ahead and move him on somewhere else. They'd have to trade him away. Now, are there other potential prospects of players that you could potentially see the Arizona Cardinals picking up? Yeah, there's guys like Nick Bosa. There's a lot of defensive talent in this draft. But as of right now, in my opinion, I think the Arizona Cardinals defense is not a problem. We saw last season they were pretty good defensively. And I think they'll continue to be good. They have Chandler Jones. They have Patrick Peterson. They still have a solid base defensively that can compete, right? That wasn't their issue last season. Their issue was, getting some points on the board and getting their team downfield, 3 and outs, having to punt consistently. That's never going to win you games. So as of right now, I could potentially see the Arizona Cardinals drafting Kyler Murray. I don't think this is a completely out of whack speculation or rumor going around right now. And I think if they were to move Josh Rosen, there are a lot of potential places where he can end up. As of right now, the New York Giants, the Jacksonville Jaguars, teams like perhaps even the Miami Dolphins. Let me think about this. Who else is in dire need for a quarterback? I was going to say Washington Redskins, but they went and they traded for Case Keenum. Like I called a couple weeks back. You can go and pull back the tape. I called that weeks ago because he perfectly fits within that scheme. Flacco's now with the Denver Broncos, so I don't know if they'll try to make a move. There are a couple places, and I'm sure that there are franchises that like what Josh Rosen brings to the table, and they're willing to trade perhaps even, I don't know what kind of value he'd have right now. Off the top of my head, he was a first-round pick last year, but right now, if you get a late second-round pick, early third, I think that's what his market value is right now, because he's not very good comparatively to all the other rookie quarterbacks last season. Lamar Jackson, he produced more at least. Guys like Baker Mayfield look way better. Sam Darnold looks way better. Josh Allen looked way better. So perhaps it was the team surrounding him, but either way, as of right now, I don't think Kyler Murray going to the Arizona Cardinals is completely out of whack, and I wouldn't mind seeing it. Just earlier today, the Arizona Cardinals traded for Gilbert, the right tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they're going to bring in, pieces in order to protect the quarterback, whoever it may be, starting, in week 1 of the 2019 season. They're bringing in pieces. They're trying to surround whoever this quarterback's going to be with protection and viable options offensively. You still have Larry Fitzgerald. You still have Christian Kirk, David Johnson. There is talent still on this team. You just need an offensive line now in order to, figure things out. Anyway, so enough on Kyler Murray. Until we see the NFL draft and something like that, we're just speculating at this point, but I don't think it's going to be too crazy if it goes down and happens that way. So let's move on to topic 2 today. Standing among Giants, we have Kevin Zeitler, okay? He is the right guard, or he formerly was the right guard of the Cleveland Browns last season. Kevin Zeitler, an all-pro right guard, a guy that's just has been dominating, right? He used to play for the Cincinnati Bengals, signed within their own division to a rival with the Cleveland Browns, and he's been great there for the last couple seasons. Now, what happened earlier today? Yesterday, there were a little bit of rumblings, a little bit of rumors. Like I mentioned, there's rumors all over the place of some offers going left and right, saying it doesn't matter. But the rumors that went around was that Odell Beckham could have potentially been traded. Now, the Cleveland Browns, they did send an offer towards the New York Giants asking, hey, if we give you this offensive lineman, this defensive lineman, and a pick, would you give us Odell Beckham? They laughed at that. They said there's no way. But earlier today, there was a deal that was struck between the two teams. The Giants sent over defensive end Olivier Vernon. Pretty good guy. I mean, when he played for the Dolphins about 3 years back, he was an all-pro. Has had some injury history with the Giants. It just hasn't looked the same. But he's a good defensive end. They traded him for Kevin Zeitler. Zeitler coming to the end of his contract, so they wanted to move him and kind of save some cap space so they could approach free agency and try to get Baker Mayfield some more pieces. Now, what exactly does this trade have in value? Talking about offensive linemen getting traded usually doesn't have to do much with fantasy football. But as of right now, when you have Saquon Barkley on the Giants and you bring in an all-pro right guard to sit on the other side of already having a strong left side of the offensive line with Nate Solder, all-pro left tackle, Will Hernandez, who was drafted last season, you are already building a pretty, strong offensive line there. I mean, just thinking of the entire offense of the Giants. It's looking pretty good. You have Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard, and then you have Evan Ingram, Saquon Barkley. Now you have Will Hernandez, Nate Solder. You brought in Kevin Zeitler. I mean, goodness gracious. If Eli wasn't the quarterback of this team, I would think this is a playoff team. Offensively, they're looking fantastic. This is a team that can compete. This is a dark horse within the division. They won games last season. But goodness, if Eli Manning could figure it out, I think this team could find some pretty good success. I feel like, bringing in an all-pro guard, it only helps Saquon's argument, for him to be number one overall. And I feel like if they continue to improve this team defensively, offensively, perhaps maybe they go get Kyler Murray. You never know. But if the Giants can continue to build an offense as such, I mean, the argument is being made for Saquon as the weeks go by, especially if the Rams decide to sign C.J. Anderson and, go forward with that. But as of right now, the acquisition of Kevin Zeitler looks fantastic. I think as of right now for Saquon, it's the best possible thing you could have done. Obviously, their right tackle, I think they re-signed their center, who had gotten injured midway through last season. They're bringing him back. The right tackle position, who was filled with Eric Flowers until they cut him last season, and he went to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then they kind of had a carousel there. If they can improve that, they can ensure that. Maybe, second round pick here or third round pick. There's a lot of good offensive linemen in this coming draft. If you can go ahead and shore up that position, goodness gracious. I mean, Saquon would be a great acquisition and probably the number one overall pick. But either way, just wanted to note on that, Kevin Zeitler, he's a monster. He's a stud. All right, anyway, let's move on to the third topic on today's episode. We're talking about Antonio Brown. Now, what happened with Antonio Brown this week? I titled it, Sorry Buffalo. Now, here's the thing. It was pretty insane. Last night at around, I would probably say, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard, over here in California. I'm scrolling Twitter on my phone, just scrolling it, and all of a sudden I see from the NFL Network, right, their head reporter, what was it, Ian Rappaport or whatever, whoever their head guy is. He's come out and said the Steelers have traded, like definitively, he said the Steelers have traded Antonio Brown to the Buffalo Bills. No details on what the Bills have given the Steelers, but they're working that out. So everyone on Twitter absolutely lost their mind. I mean, just everybody was grabbing for straws. And I even believed it to an extent, right? Because if so many people are talking about it, why wouldn't it come to fruition? We have the top guys, the top reporters in the NFL landscape that are coming out and making definitive statements within, for this trade. And then all of a sudden, you wake up the next morning and boom, Antonio Brown is not a Buffalo Bill. Now, what exactly happened? Now, obviously, there's, behind the door stuff that we won't have any information of, and we won't be given any of that information. There's potential that, Antonio Brown threw a fit and, wasn't interested in going there. But I don't think that's the case. A lot of people may be saying, like, Antonio Brown publicly or, had said, if I go to Buffalo, I'm not going to, I'm not going to play for them. Like, even if you trade me, I won't play there, right? Sure, he could have said that, but until I see the tweet, right, I'm not really convinced, right? I want to hear it from his own mouth. As of right now, the way I kind of saw it going, I think there was a lot of, speculation that deal would get done. But what happened at the end of the day was the Steelers were probably asking for too much. They probably wanted, a first round, maybe second round pick. And the other team was thinking, okay, we'll give you maybe a second round this year and then a fifth next year. Like, we're not trying to completely sink our own ship for Antonio Brown, an older wide receiver, So I don't know exactly to what details, but I just feel sorry for the Buffalo Bills fans to have, one of the best, for sure, a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL. The rumor go around that, hey, he's getting traded to Buffalo, to then all of a sudden gets yanked back. And you don't have this receiver, that's pretty unfortunate. A lot of people were getting excited about the idea, if Antonio Brown ends up landing in Buffalo, why not go sign Le'Veon Bell? Surround Josh Allen with talent. They already have a pretty decent defense, right? Defensively, they're able to compete with just about any team, even within their own division. They've given the New England Patriots trouble all of last year, right? They are, their head coach is defensively minded, and majority of their draft picks in the last couple of years that have worked out and panned out are all defense. So the Buffalo Bills defense, they're set. They don't have to worry. They just need to go ahead and bring in talent in order to surround Josh Allen. Because if you can surround him with a good offensive line that can give him time, all it's going to take is a couple good receivers. Running back, they already have a LaShawn McCoy. Sure, they can go and get Le'Veon Bell. But if they can surround him with talent, it's great. They already have Robert Foster, Zay Jones. They would have been a done deal. But unfortunately, that is not the case. Antonio Brown is not going to be on the Buffalo Bills unless something changes within the next 24 hours, which there's always a potential of. You never know with the NFL. They're always doing these backdoor deals. They'll only give out information that is definitive to reporters when, it's done and it's been signed. So as of right now, we'll see. Antonio Brown, the way I see it, a lot of the teams that were kind of front runners for Antonio Brown services going into the 2019 season, like the 49ers or the Raiders, aren't really looking too good, right? I don't think they're willing to give up as much as other teams maybe. I think, to be honest, what we're going to see this season is we're going to see Antonio Brown go to a team that we never expected. He's going to end up on like the Eagles, or he's going to end up on what's another AF or NFC team that's just out of the blue, like Chicago. I swear they're going to. It's going to be something like that. Maybe even the Packers. There is going to be a team that comes up and just says, "We want to win now. Here's all the chips. We're pushing them into the middle of the table. Mitch Trubisky's our quarterback." You never know, and we're coming for Antonio Brown services, and we're going to try to win the Super Bowl this season. I'm just waiting to see it, and I'm excited to see that. And the sooner it can happen, so I can kind of get my fantasy thoughts out on that matter, depending on who his quarterback is, who the offensive line is, what other pieces they have within that offense. I can't wait. But either way, I think Antonio Brown needs to hurry up and get a move on. But that's definitely on the it's on the Pittsburgh Steelers to get that deal done and get that settled. Anyway, enough with Antonio Brown. We've talked about him enough in the last couple of weeks. Let's talk about the free agent tracker. Free agency for 2019 has already begun. And, yesterday, today, there's been deals going left, right, and center that are making a lot of waves within the NFL market as of right now. A couple of things that we need to kind of establish, okay? I think defensive players, they can make an impact in fantasy, because if your defense is good and you can get the offense the ball very often, and they can have more offensive plays per game, you're going to get more fantasy points. So when you have a defense like the Rams have, right, and they can continuously force 3 and outs, Jared Goff's going to get the ball back, Todd Gurley's going to get the ball back, they're going to score a lot of points. There's a reason why they score so much. But either way, free agent tracker. What are a couple of the moves that happened this week that are a big deal, right? Like I mentioned earlier, Case Keenum ends up with the Redskins, traded for, I think, a 6th and a 7th round pick. No big deal. Case Keenum is a reliable quarterback, and that's all they need. They need a reliable, healthy quarterback in order to be successful. They already have Darius Guice, Chris Thompson. Their receivers, I don't even want to mention them. Their tight ends, maybe Jordan Reed can stay healthy. But their offensive line, even the last couple seasons, being injured nonstop, they still have Pro Bowlers. Brandon Scherf, they have Trent Williams. They have a pretty good, I guess, outlook. Hopefully, this season they can make a play and get a couple free agents, perhaps to the wide receiver position, to kind of give them some more playmakers, because that's truly what they need. Maybe they'll address that in the NFL draft. Defensively, the Washington Redskins, they're set. They're a run-first team, and that's what they want to do, and they have the pieces to do that. So Case Keenum, I mentioned a couple weeks back, I think in my first, I think it was about 3 weeks back, I talked about it in relation to, after Joe Flacco got traded to the to the Broncos. So if you have any, other, if you want to hear other thoughts, on that matter, you can go ahead and hit that out. But what are some other things that happened? All right, so earlier today, Eric Weddle, safety for the Rams. He is the safety for the Rams now. He used to be the safety for the Ravens. They let him go after 3 years. Now he's playing for the Rams because probably chances are that LaMarcus Joyner, who we've put the franchise tag on a couple years in a row, he's likely to move on to free agency and strike a big deal. Another guy that's moving on in free agency, the Dolphins have cut Danny Amendola. Looks like he's probably going to go back to the Patriots, and I'm not even kidding. I think that would be a good move for him. Potentially, I think he fits within that offensive scheme, and he's very comfortable within that. So why not? You can trade back secrets to your your team and your Brady and your Belichick. What else? Michael Bennett of the Eagles, defensive end, formerly of the Seahawks. He has signed a deal with the Patriots. There you go. As I mentioned before, the Steelers signed offensive tackle for the Steelers traded away. The Steelers traded away their right tackle, Gilbert, to the Cardinals in order to beef up their offensive line. What else has happened? Okay, Carlos Hyde was cut from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not a big surprise. Carlos Hyde was on a 1-year deal with the Cleveland Browns, and then he got traded to the Jaguars. Obviously he's not going to play within the backfield with Leonard Fournette and TJ Yeldon, so he pretty much sits off to the wayside. So they might as well cut him. They're not going to go ahead and re-sign him. Where could Carlos Hyde end up landing? There are a lot of teams, and there's a lot of free agents available. Mark Ingram's available, CJ Anderson's available, Tevin Coleman's available, Carlos Hyde is available. There's a draft with a plethora of talent that you can go ahead and grab those guys. And I don't think anybody's willing to pay too much for like a Le'Veon Bell, but you never know. So I'm sure Carlos Hyde will end up somewhere where his services will be used, perhaps with the Jets, perhaps with the Eagles, maybe a team that likes to use two running backs, like a two-headed monster. You never know. But as of right now, we'll see where that goes. What else happened here? The Steelers, okay. So besides trading Gilbert away to the Cardinals, they went and re-signed. I think it's Ramon Foster. Yeah, Ramon Foster and Marquise Pouncey, their left guard and their center. So making sure that Ben Roethlisberger's protected, Juju Smith can get those passes his way, and James Conner can go ahead and figure everything out. The 49ers did not pick up their the last year option on Pierre Garçon. No big deal. They have Dante Pettis. They have Marquise Goodwin. I think they're said they'll probably go and pick up another wide receiver within this draft, in which Kyle Shanahan likes, but that's not a surprise. Garçon has barely been healthy, barely contributed in the last couple seasons, so no big deal there. The Chicago Bears continue to look to try to trade Jordan Howard. A couple rumors about the Eagles trying to pick him up or trade for him earlier this week kind of went around, but no big deal there. Nothing's really moved. The needle's not moving on that specific matter unless it's more behind the scenes stuff than I could possibly imagine. Jordan Howard's not really pulling much attention. Otherwise, he would have landed somewhere else by now, I think. Other than that, let's see here. The Ravens signed Nick Boyle. Okay, here's the thing about Nick Boyle, okay? Now, I know this name is not, a pretty name, Nick Boyle. He's a blocking tight end. Yes, he got a couple receptions here and there last season. But here's the thing. Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews, they are the receiving tight ends for the Ravens, right? Lamar Jackson, who is a younger quarterback who has troubles throwing the ball, they cut Michael Crabtree earlier this week. Now, what does that do? Okay, you don't need Michael Crabtree. You still have John Brown on the outsides. You still have your running back, Gus the Bus Edwards. You have Kenneth Dixon. And then you have Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews. I don't think Nick Boyle is going to do much, but they paid him a lot of money. So you never know, but they still have other young quarterbacks. I think Nick Boyle is just there to be a blocking tight end, in which he's really good at doing. So obviously that's a specialty in my opinion. So hopefully he'll go ahead and get some rushing yards, and it's not rushing yards, sorry, open some holes so that the rushing yards of Lamar Jackson and Gus the Bus Edwards increase. Other than that, I think Alex Collins, former running back of the Ravens, he was the starter, at the start of the 2018 season. 2017 season, he pretty much took over the job. I think he had a car accident, DUI. They cut him. So, Gus Edwards is going to be the starting running back of this team going into the 2019 season. That being said, Kenneth Dixon is he's going to get majority of the passing work unless they continue to keep Ty Montgomery, and then we'll just have to wait and see what that three-headed giant ends up looking like. Let's see here. What else happened free agently? The guy that's on the screen right here, Tyrell Williams, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers. Almost said San Diego. Tyrell Williams. Okay, so what is so special about Tyrell Williams right now? Okay, obviously teams are trying to go and get as much value as they possibly can at the wide receiver position, whether that's trying to offer for Antonio Brown, maybe offer for Odell Beckham. You never know. But the name of Tyrell Williams, it's not kind of making much waves, but he is a good wide receiver. And there are teams that have a lot of interest in him. He is going to be a free agent, and there's potentially opportunities for him to be signed with teams like the Cleveland Browns or the Indianapolis Colts. Those two teams have, two of the top four salary cap this offseason. So why not go and make a play for that? Especially the Colts, right? Other than T.Y. Hilton and Eric Ebron, your other wide receivers were not great. You can't continue to throw the ball to Chester Rogers or Pascal, or I don't even know the names of those wide receivers. But a quick stat, because I was doing my draft kit for this coming season that I'm going to be offering to you guys. Andrew Luck completed 13 touchdown passes to different receivers. Can you imagine that? 13 different receivers caught a touchdown last season. Pretty insane. Anyway, other than that, what was I talking about? Tyrell Williams, going to the Indianapolis Colts could be pretty good. Opposite side of T.Y. Hilton, not bad. Also, he could end up with the Cleveland Browns, who are also in need of another wide receiver, sitting on the opposite end of Jarvis Landry. Could be another, he's a deep threat for sure. That's what he's primarily been used for within the Chargers organization. And he could seem to have a lot of value this season. I think his departure, whether that comes sooner or later, it's going to be very valuable to the fantasy stock of Mike Williams. The other Williams on the Los Angeles Chargers, guy going into his third year, drafted from Clemson in the first round, 3 years back. I think Mike Williams is going to get a pretty big boost due to the departure of Tyrell Williams, because really a lot of the deep ball action either went to Tyrell or to Mike. And I think that now that Tyrell Williams is not there, Mike Williams is going to have to be depended upon that much more going forward. And I think that's definitely not a bad thing. What else? I'm kind of just trying to look. There's a lot of, defensive line, offensive line, extensions, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, the Jags expect to sign Nick Foles. I mentioned that last week. I talked about that. That's definitely probably going to happen. Definitely, probably, yeah. I'm not going to redact that statement. I think the likelihood is pretty high, considering there's probably nowhere else for him to land, unless everybody starts drafting rookie quarterbacks. But anyway, when it comes to free agent tracker, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. There are other names going around that haven't been signed yet, but I think there's still a potential. There's rumors. Oh, we saw Le'Veon Bell hanging out with the defensive tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. Doesn't mean he's getting signed there. No, guys, relax. All right, it's still early. They can be friends. They can hang out. He could go and try to, he may have been there for a meeting. You never know. But until we get some confirmed news that's not going to be redacted 2 hours later, we'll see what happens. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching. If you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Like this video if you want more content. And I'm about to go see Captain Marvel in a little bit, so I will have my review out probably tomorrow morning, because by the time I come back, I'm going to be too tired to do that and edit it and get it out. So anyway, thank you everybody for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys. Stay classy and love fantasy football. All right, see you guys.